We learn them, recite them, then share them. Running jokes constantly flow within our daily lives and the people we interact with. We use them to amuse ourselves and to bond with other people. The running jokes are more than a simple joke. They are living entities that exist because we do.
Because we never explained why I dislike Newman, and we're glad that nobody asked because I don't have an answer.
Right.
The real answer is why I hated Newman is because it just seemed funny to hate Newman.
Right.
And you usually don't like...
Let's first take a look at running jokes and how they behave. A popular type of joke among comedians is a callback. It's a joke that references a previous joke that was made earlier in the set. In fact, the callback is so popular that many times it's used as the closer. In Dave Chappelle's 2000 special, Killing Them Softly, he makes a joke about a baby selling drugs on a street corner.
The baby said, "I'm selling weed, nigga." I said, "Oh."
Then 30 minutes later, Dave Chappelle references the baby to close his set.
Baby. It was the same baby from the project. She's like, "I snuck in the club, nigga. I got that weed if you need me. Just pat on the ass, and I'll come out." Hey guys, thank you very much.
But callbacks and running jokes are enjoyed in TV shows as well. Seinfeld was one of the first TV shows to popularize the running jokes in mainstream culture.
Who is this?
Elaine, you gotta get back down to the dealer. Putty is screwing me on this car, which is yellow now.
Who is this?
Elaine!
The thing I love about bits, this is why it is comedian thing is different. Really good bits.
Yeah.
Go deep into your head and keep coming back.
Like all jokes, the running joke thrives off laughter, but unlike other jokes, it goes through generations of use, where each time the context changes. The context becomes more and more elaborate until finally the joke dies. One of Archer's most popular running jokes is phrasing. The joke starts off simple, but with each iteration or generation, the joke's context grows more and more elaborate.
No such thing?
Well, your mouth did.
Well, your mouth better get over there and make Torvald happy.
Phrasing?
Ron, thank you for coming so quickly. Phrasing first, boom!
The jokes have a limit of diminishing returns. Running jokes, like the health of an organism, are doomed to eventually fail. Many times, the joke dies in a quiet, unceremonious way, but sometimes the joke can die strong by reversing the joke. The reversal of the running joke typically signals the death of the joke, but in a way that honors it. When Archer's phrasing joke ran out of steam, the writers decided to reverse the joke where the characters bluntly point out the death of the joke, which is an example of hanging a lampshade on it.
Guess I'm rubbing off on you, Ray. God damn it! What? Why are we not doing phrasing?
In the show, if one of the characters says a sexual double entendre, instead of saying phrasing, Archer will say, "Are we not doing phrasing anymore?" Interestingly, this joke reversal ended up being its own running joke in the series. So it's clear that running jokes are funny, but they go beyond their punchlines and lodge themselves in our brains. And sure, maybe it's because of the repetition of the jokes make them easier to recite, but maybe the psychology goes deeper than that.
The equivalent of the act of reproduction at the genetic level would be the act of copying an idea from one brain to another. And I used examples like whistling a tune and somebody else catches the tune almost like catching a virus. And they whistle the tune and they walk off into the street whistling the same tune and somebody else catches it.
Richard Dawkins likened the survival of ideas to natural selection, that ideas can be like parasites in our minds, spreading from one person to the next. Our own language supports this connection between ideas and biology. If someone's laugh makes you laugh, it's called contagious. A smile can be infectious. Videos can go viral, and a song is catchy. In the last chapter of Chance and Necessity, molecular biologist Jacques Monod writes, "Ideas have retained some of the properties of organisms. Like them, they tend to perpetuate their structure and the breed. They too can fuse, recombine, segregate their content. Indeed, they too can evolve, and in this evolution, selection must surely play an important role. I shall not hazard a theory of the selection of ideas, but one may at least try to define some of the principal factors involved in it. I believe one of the principal factors is clear. It's comedy. Comedy is one of the principal factors that theorizes why some ideas survive over other ideas. It's survival of the fittest." In September 2004, Professor Richard Harris performed a study on 64 university students, where he asked them to list 3 to 8 movies from which they like to quote lines from. 227 quotes were obtained. Of the movies quoted, 78% of them were comedies. The second closest was drama, coming in at only 14%. When asked for the reason why students would quote comedies, the primary reason was to amuse self, for our own enjoyment.
You know, if you can make a situation a little bit more interesting by using a movie quote, it's something that kind of breaks your own tension. And that's why most people do it. They do it just for themselves.
It makes sense. Laughter is shown to release endorphins and provide numerous health benefits, lowering blood pressure, reduce stress, boost immune functionality, etc. It's as if comedy survives because it found the best way to survive in its environment of inside our minds, by making us feel good. The better comedy makes us feel, the more likely the comedy will survive and infect other minds. Richard Dawkins gave these self-propagating ideas a name, based on the Greek word to imitate, meme. He shortened the word to meme. He first brings up meme in his book, The Selfish Gene, written in 1976.
Memes that are copied from one brain to another, you potentially have the possibility of a kind of natural selection. Now, it's a big step.
Today, many people are familiar with the word meme, not because of Richard Dawkins' use, but because memes have discovered not only how to infect our minds, but also our internet. Internet memes follow a very similar pattern to organisms. They're born and begin strong. Then, because the generations simply repeat their bloodline over and over again like certain Game of Thrones characters, they eventually get sick, decrepit, and downright gross, until finally the meme goes extinct. Internet memes are essentially crowd-funded running jokes, where people repeat the same punchline over and over again, but with a different context every time.
To understand a joke, you have to belong to the parish, that community of understanding. And if you feel you belong to that community of understanding, of getting the joke, then you will laugh at almost anything that reinforces your sense of belonging to that group. And that's what laughter can do. If we can laugh together, we can live together.
In Richard Harris's study, even though the primary reason for quoting comedies is to amuse oneself, the second reason, only 1% behind, was to amuse others. Another reason was to feel closer to those who have seen the movie. In fact, almost all the purposes for quoting movies is based on our interactions with other people. Even though the most popular reason was to amuse oneself, the majority of people quote comedies for social purposes. Considering that we're 30 times more likely to laugh when other people are present, it's no surprise. Let's take a look at the TV and movies where you like to quote. Many people, when quoting Rick and Morty, will likely say, "For How I Met Your Mother,"
Legendary,
and
"You suited up."
Princess Bride,
Inconceivable.
and Archer, we got,
Hey, phrase it! Because you're in the danger zone.
What? Do you want ants?
and
Are you in...
Alternate voicemail. You know what to do, stupid.
We're sorry. I'm done. He's dead to me.
some of these are also catchphrases, which aren't the same thing as running jokes, but they are a close relative. But the most popular type of joke quoted from comedies is a running joke. This makes perfect sense because running jokes are repeated over and over. They're easy to remember, but it's also an inside joke that's formed with the audience.
I love inside jokes. Love to be a part of one someday.
If we're 30 times more likely to laugh with friends, it makes sense that running jokes tend to be very funny, because we form inside jokes with our personal friends. Forming inside jokes with characters on a show makes them feel like friends as well. To conclude, I want to study a single running joke's lifespan. This one in particular is my favorite, mostly because of how brilliant and perfectly executed it is. It's also completely unique from all the jokes I've discussed so far. The joke is from Community and only spans a single episode, Competitive Ecology. The joke is called No Offense Todd. The birth of the joke occurs a few minutes into the episode, where Pierce is talking to Todd. Pierce was originally assigned to be lab partners with Todd, but Pierce tells Todd he would rather be lab partners with one of his friends instead, concluding his speech with, "No offense, Todd."
But I just don't trust you, and I don't think I could grow to like you. The point of what I'm trying to tell you, Todd, is that I don't want to be your lab partner. No offense.
None taken. I understand. You want to be with your friends.
Don't tell me what I'm feeling or thinking. It's petty.
The first generation of this joke is actually not a joke at all. It's not funny, but that's one of the reasons why this joke is so special. To understand why, let's review a concept. In my previous video, I mentioned Peter McGraw's concept of benign violation, where humor occurs when a violation takes place, but that violation is also benign. If you fall down stairs, it's a violation, but it's not benign, so it's not funny. If you successfully walk down the stairs without falling, then it's also not funny. But if a character you hate falls down the stairs, it's funny because even though it's a violation, it's benign to you. So let's get back to the joke. The reason why the first generation of the joke isn't funny is because it's purely benign. For Pierce to say, "No offense, Todd," is not a violation. Pierce is telling Todd not to take what he said personally, and Todd accepts Pierce's statement with grace. There's no violation, and the situation is benign. A few minutes later, Pierce is mad that everyone else in his group pairs off while he's stuck with Todd. Pierce expresses his anger, and the joke occurs again.
It's not fair that I should be the only one here saddled with a total waste of space loser. No offense, Todd.
None taken.
Notice how despite Todd's politeness, his facial expression shows that he actually is offended. Now the joke is becoming funny because now we have a violation. The joke is still partially benign, but now that a violation is introduced, the humor of the joke grows more apparent. Now that the violation of the joke has been established, the context of each generation changes and becomes more elaborate. The first two generations were made by Pierce, but then it spreads to the rest of the group. Next to Jeff.
This, non-grouper. No offense, Todd.
None taken. I'm happy to work with whoever.
Then Shirley insults Todd, but doesn't say, "No offense, Todd."
Don't go trying to pawn Todd off on me.
Again, none taken.
Then back to Jeff, where Todd reluctantly says, "None taken."
With Todd, I mean, no offense, but he wasn't exactly at the top of my list.
None taken?
It's what the algorithm dictated.
Next, Pierce only mentions Todd without insulting him, but still says, "No offense, Todd," to which Todd grows more and more offended.
Oh! I just had a terrible nightmare that Jeff was a pompous ass. Also, Todd was there. No offense, Todd.
In other words, the violation grows, making the line funnier. That's what makes this joke so special. It's the only running joke that I know of where the dynamic of the joke itself intrinsically changes from simply repeating the punchline over and over again. It inherently evolves, whereas all other jokes inherently dissolve. Instead of getting weaker, the joke gets stronger with each repetition. The line, "No offense, Todd," could have been funny on its own even without changing the context because of the violation growth. At this point, the flexibility of the joke has almost been exhausted and many different contexts have been explored, but it hasn't overstayed its welcome. The joke is still fresh, but the writers finish the joke by reversing it. In the climax of the episode, Todd snaps when his pet turtle is almost caught on fire, at which point Todd makes his stand against the group.
I'm going home. I'm gonna hold my wife and my child close, and I am gonna finally take my insulin shot! Offense taken! Offense taken.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed my video on the epidemic of the running joke. I wanted to let you know of my current work in progress. It's called Empty Vessels, and the link to it is in the description below. Please visit and subscribe. I genuinely appreciate every person who signs up for email updates on my novel. If you have requests for video topics, list them in the comments below and I'll add them to my queue. Again, I hope this video was enjoyable for you. Thank you.